Good evening, fellow fools and specters alike. It's your ghost host with the most, Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5, here to engage in some haunted holiday hijinks by trudging through the catacombs and dusting off the cobwebs to recount a spooky selection of Halloween classics.
So light the jack-o'-lantern, suit up, and grab the candy dish as we revive and recount tonight's spooky selection. Creature from the Black Lagoon. Universal, I dare you to make this into a musical! It'd be diabolical! Seriously, that actually happened at Universal Studios, Dragon, and it was absolutely god-awful. I'm not making that up. Creature from Black Lagoon, the musical, live on stage. One of the most obscure and cringeworthy parts of Universal Studios Hollywood history. The more you know. Anyways, how you doing, Dragon?
On the right side of the lake.
Alright, well, this is our penultimate installment of our All Hallows Eve retrospectives. And I gotta say, Dragon, this has been a great year, I think. I think this lineup, we'll go over the entire lineup once we do our final episode, because I think it's worth just kind of savoring one more time. But Dragon, honestly, I really don't think there was a bad one in the bunch. They were all at least good, and a lot of them were straight up iconic, this being among them. This is, of course, the first classic Universal monster movie that we have covered here on Haunted Holiday Hijinks. And Dragon, I've been pushing to get to Frankenstein, maybe one day. But this is a great second choice. Now onto my thesis and nostalgia for this thing. Dragon, believe it or not, the Gill Man deeply terrified me as a child.
Really?
Like to the point where I didn't even fathom actually watching the movie. Just like the brief glimpses I would get of him. Especially that iconic scene where where he's following where he's following Kay as she's swimming in the lagoon, and just the distance between them, just the fact that like he was just far enough out of reach to not be of notice to her, but still in the vicinity enough to where he was definitely a threat to her. Dragon, that imagery, oh, it stuck with me. So, Dragon, this movie has really been one of my, I don't want to say one of my phobias, but it's definitely been one where, I definitely skipped it as a kid, and I have no idea why I never went back to it. It wasn't because I was, like, deathly afraid of anything. I definitely skipped it as a kid because I was afraid of it. But for some reason, this just kind of, like, slipped through my fingers in terms of, like, I've studied up on pretty much all the other Universal monsters. I haven't really looked into a lot of the sequels, but I know the Frankensteins and the Draculas and the Mummies and the Wolfmans like the back of my hand. I even know the more obscure ones like the Nosferatus and the Man Who Laughs at the World. But yeah, this has definitely been a blank spot on my resume that I was happy to fill in. And the interesting thing about this Dragon is that, like, as atmospheric as it is, as creepy as the Gill Man is, this movie is still, by all intents and purposes, like a cheesy 1950s Hollywood blockbuster. And I don't say that in any sort of negative way. I think this is a really, really interesting kind of like combination of like dark, moody, and atmospheric storytelling with the whole aesthetic of like, hey, we got a monster to chase, and it's a big third act shootout, and we got the rogue action heroes, and we got the love triangle playing out between the two male leads and the female lead. We've got all that, Dragon. We've got like it's very I could totally see how this movie would have absolutely hit big in the time it was released, because it was absolutely like the sensibilities of blockbuster filmmaking at the time, mixed with kind of like the old school gothic aesthetic of what we loved about those older Universal monster movies. So in that regard, Dragon, this movie, it's maybe not as deep as I was hyping it up to be, given the shape of water of it all. It's not quite as like, oh my god, this movie's just dripping in symbolism, and it's just like honestly, in terms of the story was a little more simple than I was expecting. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. In a lot of ways, this movie kind of reminds me of like a proto Jurassic Park, and we'll get into it with some of my character comparisons because it does have kind of like some of those elements of like, do you play God, or do you just let nature be nature? What do you do when you found something that maybe wasn't meant to be discovered in the first place? A lot of interesting moral questions there. That's where the heart of the movie is for me. And yeah, overall, I couldn't be happier to check this one off my list finally, Dragon.
All right. Yeah, I've always had a respect for the creature from the Black Lagoon, or as we lovingly refer to him, the Gill Man. Again, so weird, Tiki. After all these years, we've never quite officially given him a name. I mean, the Gill Man is what we go by for sure, but I'm just saying otherwise, just kind of the creature. It's never like no one ever quite gave him a name outside of just kind of very vaguely like I think shorthand they've called him the creature. I don't even think they've necessarily
His
called him the Gill
name
Man.
is Randy Johnson.
Sure.
I'm just making that up out of my ass. Anyways, go ahead.
Anyway.
I hear you.
Yeah, but yeah, seriously, though, it's the Creature Black Lagoon. So visually, probably the most exciting of the Universal monsters, if we're being honest. One of the most visually interesting of the bunch. I would say the Invisible Man, but let's be honest, a little the opposite when you think of him. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, he looks all cool, bandaged up, but when played as a monster, kind of hard to see.
I mean, Count Orlok doesn't count as a universal monster. I would say Count Orlok has a more striking design, but yeah, outside of Orlok, I think that he's definitely got one of the more striking designs of any of the Universal monsters. He's right up there with Carlos Frankenstein.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Frankenstein's just kind of built into history, but I mean, the one that really jumps out at you, one like if Frankenstein's a built-in institution. We all know Frankenstein. Along with Dracula, it's like the vampire is Dracula once. They're both synonymous in many respects. Frankenstein, again, you got the book, you got the whole 9 yards. Flat top. We love the guy, but if you just look through like a library, like a poster of the Universal monsters, which one's jumping out? You want to know more about if you don't know them already? Creature from Black Lagoon, clearly.
Yeah.
So basically I've in later years I've developed an even greater appreciation after, of course, The Shape of Water.
Naturally.
I love The Shape of Water. I think it's Del Toro's masterpiece. I love
I
it.
need to go back and watch The Shape of Water again after this.
Yeah, I have such a good
And I
time.
still maintain that Pan's Labyrinth is Del Toro's masterpiece, but I
Hey, fair
digress.
enough. Fair enough. The point being, the man knows
It's
how to
hard
make
for me to
movies.
let go of Pan's Labyrinth movie.
Hey,
It's
fair
hard
enough.
to that movie's special for me. So
Well, regardless, Shape of Water is special for me, so I
I
can
hear you.
understand. And here's the thing: all these remakes we're doing of the classic, the remakes upon like the failed universes to the universes that seem to be in better flux at the moment. To me, Shape of Water, it's the true remake, The Creature from the Black Lagoon. I don't care if it's not official in my heart of hearts. That's the remake that I care about. But no, seriously. So again, I've always like I've seen large portions of Creature from Black Lagoon. Like I've seen the iconic sequence, as you described. I've seen like I'm sure I've seen the ending. I don't know if I ever saw like all the way through Connected. I actually recently, again, serendipity, I bought the trilogy on DVD, hence I had access to it. So yeah, that's how I was able to watch it for this. And yeah, I this movie, it's a great cautionary monster tale against like the interfering within the natural world. Again, the ethical questions you were kind of circling around there, kind of the Jurassic Parkian
Mhm.
questions, the the Crichton questions, if you will. But yeah, it's kind of this.
It's also kind of rooted in some King Kong stuff as well. Like the
Well,
themes kind of
I'm
are
gonna
like
get to
Jurassic Park meets King Kong.
sure I'm gonna get to that with a background, but yes.
Okay.
But that's the thing. I love that we're this thing's about like interfering in the natural world for like glory or curiosity's sake within the past. Like I want to know more about where we came from. Where again, we're very much in a society where it's a little less where we came from, it's a little bit more where we're going, and that's kind of what this movie's in celebration of. Because it's in the '50s, we're in the '60s, the next decade, we're all about the space race. We're all about the sci-fi going upwards. and like the potential things are going to end us and the way we got to circumvent that. Well, this is again, it's very fascinating. Like we're going the opposite route, with all the introduction of the aliens in the 50s. We're looking backwards with this, which is really interesting. It's like in the search of glory and all these curiosities, we kind of summon a totem of the past. We create our own demons. To paraphrase Ultron, we always create the things we dread. We create our own demons. We've kind of summoned a demon of the past as our punishment in the form of the creature who we kind of turned into our tormentor. A guy wasn't looking for any trouble. We caused it. We
Right,
created it.
right.
There's a lot of great levels years later. I find to it again the Universal monster film. Um, it's a Universal monster film that's great with the symbolism within the horror, which again is like when Universal's at their best when they can kind of do that. Against like Frankenstein's like the sympathetic outsider, a little bit of that too with the creature. I found, which I think is why these two are kind of the upper echelon of the monsters in many regards. It's again, as you said wonderfully at the beginning, just kind of put like kind of a bumper sticker on it here. Uh, this is a B movie that was given the universal clout and kind of the
Mhm,
drama
mhm.
of the soul, which gave it, I feel, longevity in the greater in the long term, which is why creatures withstood the test of time to a regard. When again, when you look to Universal monsters, it's literally the pop out of the 3D movies. It just kind of pops out at you. All right.
Okay, so yeah, let's get some background, Dragon.
I got juicy background on this, man. It's a Universal movie, so I mean, it's a classic Universal
And
movie.
this
So
was, of course, like after a big gap in the Universal monsters, so I'm curious about that.
all right, so you have this. So it all starts with the producer, William Allen. So William Allen, this guy has an interesting story in himself, but the cliff notes are he was in Citizen Kane. He was Thompson, the reporter in Citizen Kane. He was the
Oh
guy
wow,
looking around asking people about Charles Foster
yeah,
Kane.
big role, big role.
So this guy, again, he had a few different, many hats. He's kind of actor, producer. Well, he's in the business of Hollywood. He went to the cast party at the end of Citizen Kane. So this
I
is in the
wonder
works since
if I wonder if we're going to see an actor play him in Mank.
I don't probably. I don't know if it's going to be one of they might do like a few times stupid gesture. Remember, we kind of cast him a little half-heartedly, but they're there. I'm not saying that
Right, right.
I'm just saying I don't know how big a role he's going to have. So he was at the cast party, one of the cast parties for Citizen Kane back in '41. So this thing gestates for a while. They were kind of talking, swapping stories, and he heard from I believe like heard from another director, another filmmaker. He heard about the legend. There's an actual existing legend. I know how ironic that sounds. Just go with me. There was a legend about this fish creature in the Amazon, about like an actual half man, half fish creature. Real priest. Again, basically, the creature in Black Lagoon is somewhat, in quotes, autobiographical, I guess,
Mhm.
if you want to look at it that way, based on a true urban legend in a sense. And basically, the idea kind of stemmed again, kind of the big Hollywood thinking back in the time was, okay, let me take this interesting nugget I got at a dinner party. Let me combine it with a little basis there. Let's take literally the Lost World, not the one you're thinking of, Tiki, but the original Lost World, the one by Conan Doyle, which essentially gets refurbished later by by
Dragon, I don't like the one that you think I'm thinking of. I have more respect for the Conan Doyle one. How dare you insinuate things?
oh, sorry, I thought no, you had like as much attachment to the original. I'm
I
sorry.
really like the Conan Doyle one,
Well, that's
Dragon.
cool. I didn't
It's
know.
like proto King Kong. It's fascinating.
Okay, well, regardless, so the Lost World. So the Lost World is definitely they're literally on their minds, along with let's essentially do a remake. It's kind of the old '50s mentality. Let's rip off King Kong a little bit. Let's take King Kong.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of that with King Kong. King Kong was a trailblazer.
Yep. So basically, of course, got married. King Kong changed the game big time with the monster cinema in a huge sense. King Kong was massive, literally.
Mhm.
So again, we're gonna basically let's take the blueprint of King Kong, apply kind of the Lost World trimmings of it all, and kind of the big ethical questions, and then combine like this real existing little tidbit of stuff here. And yeah, that kind of like with basic King Kong with a sea monster premise, and you're off to the races. So in terms of making it a reality, yeah, this is where you're really gonna love Tiki. So I don't know if you're aware of this. The design, the mama to the to the creature from the Black Lagoon
Yes.
is Millicent Patrick. That name ring any bells for you?
Oh man. Sounds like I should know it, but I
Yeah.
don't.
So she was one of the ink and paint girls from Disney, worked her way up to an animator.
Okay.
She designed the Gill Man. Like she's the mother not only to the creature but also to Chernabog in Fantasia. That was her
Oh
baby.
wow. Oh yeah, that's
Like
so
the last thing
classic.
she did at
Mm.
Disney before moving on to the monster stuff
Mhm.
was Dumbo. It was like the last thing she worked on. Then she's kind of moved on to I guess kind of your 50 status there. Did
Nice.
actually some work on the Abbott Costello meet I think Meet the Mummy. I think that was the one she or no Jekyll and Hyde. That was Jekyll and Hyde. All right. So, but yeah, the point is, so she does an awesome design of the Gill Man, which then they kind of they fabricate and they create. And famously, again, this shows you the change in times. She got really kind of sidestepped credit wise because there was a makeup team. Bud Westmore was the big Universal Monster Maker guy, and he probably did the original stuff, and basically he always took credit for everyone's work and contributions on the makeup team. So she completely got sidestepped.
This guy sounds like a prick.
Yeah, I know that's the thing. Guy
Even the
was kind of
name, just Bud Westmore, that just sounds like a
Rick
classic
Baker.
Hollywood douchebag.
That was I remember I watched the Joe Rogan interview with Rick Baker, and he had a story about this guy where basically this guy would embarrassingly take credit for people's work, and he would like when they take like he would try to get people not to be in when the press comes in, he tried to tell them to take the day off so he could get the picture with the creature to assume like, hey, this guy did all the work, or he's the face of it, and then they even in those
Oh,
pictures he would hold the wrong like sculpting equipment in his hands, and it's like,
sounds
oh.
kind of like what Walt Disney did to the Snow White voice actress. Did you hear about that?
Oh, if I did, I think I completely forgot about it. No, I don't.
Okay, long story short, he basically like the gimmick of animation was so new at the time that he didn't want to credit Snow White's voice actress at all. So if you watch the film, she has no credit, and she didn't want to promote her at all. And the reason was because he wanted to maintain the illusion that Snow White was an animated character and that there was no face behind the character.
Well, I was gonna save this for later, but I mean, with that story, I got to bring it up now. Big travesty that happened on this movie. The guys that played the creature.
And what performances, dude!
So it's like I said, the performance of the creature. So again, as I mentioned, they create the suit, which again, but Wes Morty kind of takes credit for very, very badly. Very Bob Kane inspired, just like completely
Right,
takes the credit, and
right.
he's like posing like for the pictures and everything. So essentially, they get two guys in the
Guy
suit. There's
sounds
a
like a more evil version of Kevin Wachtel.
pretty
That's what I'm
much.
picturing.
Yeah, we love Kevin Walktel as like an evil version, like
Yeah,
give him
yeah,
like an
yeah.
oversized mustache. Kevin, I don't
Right.
even know if this guy's a mustache. I'm just saying, let's give him like a mustache to sell the evilness. So the point we have two guys for the way we do the creatures. We have two guys. We got a land guy. We got an underwater guy. We got the land guy who's Ben Chapman, cool guy, and then we have Rico Browning. I don't know if he's around anymore. Ben Chapman. It's been years, but I know that Ben Chapman stuck around for a while during like the press and everything. So he'd done a lot of interviews. So point being, those two guys get no credit whatsoever. And in the sequels, this is a trilogy by the way. Creature of Black Lagoon got a trilogy. The second movie, they're trying to get credit, and this completely got shut down. And it's like, nope, nope. Like, well, I'll give you a cameo in the movie, which means we can technically put your credit, but they can't just say, hey, this guy plays the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, that's so cheap. Wow.
It is, and and they kind of sold it as like a marketing thing, but it's like, come on, guys, what harm would it do? So, so they create the suit. The suit is constructed out of foam rubber, and this was like the best suit at the. This is like the first real suit actor performance. That's really huge about it. I'm sure Doug Jones felt quite honored to be kind of a version of the Gill Man, just given the history of this thing. This was like the best suit at the time for a horror movie ever. What they did here.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely, no
they
doubt.
shoot in Florida and California in the California Universal Studios, and they're shooting around Florida for like anytime you see the boat above the water, it's in the grotto. That's essentially Florida. Let's see. The Glenn Strange was considered. Glenn Strange, the guy who played Frankenstein. Abigail meet Frankenstein. He was considered for the creature, but he couldn't swim well. So like, okay, he's out. Can't get him in there. Last little tidbit. Abbott and Costello, they did technically meet the Gill Man very briefly.
Oh wow.
So they did like an advertisement for Creature from the Black Lagoon. Abbott and Costello, they were kind of waning a little bit in the end of the 50s. But this is like 54. So Abbott and Costello, they did the Colgate Comedy Hour, which basically recycled a lot of their comedy bits. And they did like some of the kind of Frankenstein stuff. with the creature. And basically, it's like it's very brief, but they like play trailers during the hour and stuff for the movie and everything. It's like Lou Costello kind of bumps into the creature. He thinks, "Oh, I knocked over a fake monster," and then he turns around like, "Oh my god, it's the creature." So there you go. And also, last most important thing. I'm sorry, this is important though. 3D film, 1954, big 3D release back when it was really a new thing. The first underwater 3D film, or like first
That's
3D
crazy.
film.
I never even really think of this as a 3D film just because it works so well in 2D. You know what I mean?
I know it does. That's a shock. I completely forgot about it too. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
oh my god, yeah, it was 3D. Yeah, and
All
like
right.
30 years later, we're doing Jaws 3D. It's crazy.
Oh man. Now that's a movie that doesn't hold up in 2D.
Oh, all right.
Dragon, I would like to go to a 3D cinema to watch Jaws 3D though. I think that'd be a fun time if they re-release Jaws 3D in 3D. I would
Did I
totally do that.
did I ever show you that Back to the Future thing they did where they show you all the other Jaws sequels that lead up to Jaws 19?
No, you did not.
Yeah, it's like all it's a trailer for Jaws 19 that kind of like it
Oh
recaps
god.
the other like so 18 or so Jaws movies.
All right. So,
All right,
Dragon, go ahead and give us a plot summary, and then we'll kind of break down the way that we approach the plot.
sure. Okay, so here's the plot in a nutshell. So we got Dr. Carl Maya, and Dr. Carl Maya, he uncovers a fossil, which is a skeletal hand of a kind of webbed sea creature of some variety, basically interpreted as the link between land and sea for between man and creature, which leads to an expedition to the Amazon for the rest to get the rest of the skeleton. Pretty simple. He gets his old student, David. He gets him on board, and David then convinces his boss, Mark, real prick, to to finance said trip. And he takes his girlfriend and colleague, Kay, along with him to the Amazon because why not? It's fun. So, Doctor, I think it's Maya or Maya. I keep butchering it.
It's Maya.
Maya, thank you.
Yeah.
So Maya here. So Maya's men are like awaiting for their return, basically scoping out the area, reserving the land and such. And they return, awaiting the return of our guys, and they get killed by this mysterious creature, the Gill Man. Suffice it to say, the Gill Man eventually falls for Kay, which prompts the scientists to find out about said Gill Man and try to catch him alive for the scientific discovery of it all, which goes rather awry. A lot of dead bodies, a lot of nutsy cuckoo stuff, kids. Kay gets kidnapped. David attempts a rescue, which eventually leads to the ambiguous death of our mysterious creature from the Black Lagoon. That's the movie in a nutshell.
All right. So let's break it down, Dragon. So, I mean, God, there's so many cool tropes that we see almost established in this movie. You know what I like to speak to the Jurassic Park point, the whole the fact that these people are professionals in their field and they all kind of have a different role to play within the crew. That's great, and that's very Jurassic Park. Of course, King Kong, Lost World, kind of going into this unexplored terrain. We also have some Jaws with the urban legends and the storytelling and the salty sea captain of it all. I mean, there's so many different ingredients here that this film really is a benchmark of storytelling. But what I love most about the film, Dragon, is the second act where they actually have the creature in capacity. Because that whole second act, Dragon, that's the shape of water of it all. You know what I mean? That's where that's where the really interesting philosophical conversations come into play.
Well, you know what's cool, Tiki? I'm saying since you brought it up, in The Shape of Water, what they did is they combined all three sequels. I mean, they combined all three movies in the trilogy together, in a sense. Like, well, I should say we kind of sidestep the capture of the creature, which this movie is kind of all about. So we kind of,
Mhm.
besides that, we keep the romance element, though. And he gets tortured in the second one. He gets all that's where they catch him in the second one, bring him to a lab, and they do horrible experiments to him. And the third one, he's kind of out in the world, which is kind of where we go in the second act of Shape of Water. So it's really kind of neat the way that works out.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
But yeah, you're right. It's absolutely there's a proto Jaws in here for sure. A lot of protos in here, as it were, which is very fascinating. Because again, like we played they wanted to be more mysterious with the creature. They wanted to build him up in universe, spending a lot of money on the suit. Like, no, we got to see him faster. I want to see more of this guy. Like, don't
I
build him
mean,
up.
I will say though, the bits where they do build him up are some of my favorite bits in the movie, and I love that build up. I wish there was a little more of it. I got to admit, by the time we get to the third act, I am a little bit numb to what the creature looks like because we've seen so much of him, and I do think that's we'll get to that with cons. But just overall, I do love how we gradually like peel back and reveal like we'll see like the skeletal arm, and then we'll see like a living arm, and then we'll see the net that's been broken through on both sides. We just very I love how we kind of like set the building blocks of like we know what this thing looks like through pop culture osmosis, obviously, but we're dying to see it, man.
Yes, and also we kind of have a thing where we've got a better glimpse of the creature. Like, at the very least, we've seen him in motion underwater at this point. So, like a lot of that, and it's just waiting for them to put like, "Look out! He's coming for you!" It's like, "No, you idiots, turn around!" That's sort of the sort of charm there. But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, plot wise, like it's really straightforward. I'll admit, got some expository trappings of the B movie. It's there. Let's be honest. These are a lot of exposition in Act One. But again, I like that we linger on the beauty and the tension underwater. That's where things really come alive. They really sing, and it starts. And again, like as you mentioned, I love that we start with unearthing a creature, which then draws the attention of the Gill Man. Like literally unearthing the past is what summons him. But like, with that shot, though, like the dead arm to the living arm is perfect. That's how we introduce him into our story. It summarizes everything you need to know about this creature's kind of motivations in a sense. I mean that along with the girl, obviously, but just in the sense of like, okay, now we've kicked the hornet's nest. Here comes the terror.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You mentioned the body count, and yeah, this movie has a surprising body count.
yeah. Yeah, and again, I absolutely echo the sentiment, Mystique. For me, the movie really starts the moment Kay swims in the water. That's when the movie really starts. I don't want to take away from certain bits in the build. Don't get me wrong, and there's still good bits in Act One. Again, hence the net and everything. Like we're cutting through that, or like caught in the rock, and they're kind of writing it off later. Again, once she's in the water, that's the movie. That's when we're off to the races. It's like Jaws, and we're on the water now. Nothing against anything beyond before that point, but it's like, oh my god, it's an adventure film.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so let's start breaking down the characters, Dragon, starting with the Gill Man himself.
Just looks awesome, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, Dragon, we could be here all day just analyzing literally every bit of the design. I mean, we could do a whole podcast just
Like
on
the
the
ridging
design.
and the breathing and the whole it's great.
I love the fact that he was played by two different actors on land and in the water. I think it makes perfect sense. I love that, like, in the water, he's a lot more graceful, and then on land, he's a lot more kind of, stumbling around and a lot more sort of
Fish out of
messy.
water.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that works absolutely perfectly. The moments when he's in captivity are some of the most vivid moments for me, just because of the emotion you can see in his eyes.
Sure. I got to tell you, the it's really amazing about how they achieve that is the guy doing the underwater performance, Rico. When he's doing the graceful things in the water, that should be impossible because that guy he has to hold his breath for 4 minutes. And he's swimming in a foam rubber suit, which again, after a while, I mean, it's gonna be hard to move around there. And then when the guy on land, they put lead in his shoes to give him that fish out of water effect. That's why he has very limited in the movements. We're taken away from the gracefulness. It's like really, it's amazing how we kind of make him a reality there. But yeah, so the creature himself. So the Gillman, ancient creature of unknown origin. We never quite pinpoint. Same thing with Shapewater. We never quite pinpointed. Like we don't know if he's like an alien, if he's like a god actually, or if he's again just something that's actually like a missing link, or if he's like he's very looks. I mean,
The
we have a
movie spends a
skeleton.
lot of time focusing on the evolution side of things. The idea that we've had like a lot of fish that actually can breathe, without gills and
Hmm.
stuff like that. One of my favorite theories in the movie is the whole idea of uh, out in space, we reserve some reservation about like there might be life out there. What makes us think that there's not undiscovered life in the ocean or in the seas where there's literally millions of life forms that we don't know about and that we haven't studied yet? Uh, God, that sort of stuff really gets your head turning.
It is
That really gets your wheels spinning.
it's a great concept where again we have a space on our own planet that's unexplored. Again, like
Uh
it
huh.
goes all the way. It's fascinating. Of course, like the best of the Universal monsters, creature sympathetic, which I think
Yeah.
is important. His home has been invaded by like all the he has all of his curiosities. Because if you think about it, he really comes. He looks scary for sure. I mean, how can you not be terrified looking at the Gill Man? But he shows up, and the initial guys at the camp, they're who get killed or get attacked. They're yeah, pretty much killed and attacked. The point being, these guys get mauled. Um, they start throwing things at him, and including they set him on fire off screen before we do it awesomely on screen. I can't wait to get to that. Oh boy, it's awesome. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. His curiosities are met with violence. Instead of like a respect or a caution, like maybe let's not antagonize the big scary creature that we maybe want to learn a little bit more about. Maybe let's not like shoot it and like set on fire and stuff. Just an idea. But that's the thing. I love that like we're turning him into a monster because we're not respecting. Again, it's like respecting the environment. We're not respecting it, or like kind of a creature before he's like a monster, which is fascinating. Again, hence the title in a sense. Creature, not monster of the Black Lagoon.
Sure.
We
Sure.
turned him into that. We gave him that moniker, and it's like we're reflect our actions define our invaders, so to speak. I guess it's kind of a way of looking at it. And there's a deleted idea from the movie which I found is really fat. You don't need it, I guess, because the swimming sequence does the job for you. But there was an idea that they were going to talk like the fisher, the sea captain, I believe, was going to get into a conversation about some of the lore around the place, and they're going to talk about the mermaid. The idea that the mermaid might have been a real thing, and that the mermaids are now like a mermaid fell in love with a man, and that whole the old story there. And the idea is perhaps the Gill Man is now lacking his mermaid, and he's looking for he too is looking for a blonde beauty of his own in the sense of our female protagonist. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Interesting stuff, but
I
yeah,
do like how we don't get much development on the Black Lagoon, but I do like the mythology that is built up about it.
it's the unexplored kind of area. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
certainly.
All right. So let's get to Kay.
Yes, Kay Lawrence. She's very. Well, first of all, let me point. Tell me, you can tell me if I'm crazy on this. She reminded me of somebody. She reminded me of Eilet Zur. Vanessa from Daredevil. Do you get that all looking at her?
I could see that. No, I could totally see that.
Like
Yeah.
if she had like more blondish hair, I think it'd be a dead ringer for her.
I like this character a lot. What I like about her is that she's not a Fey Ray. Fey Ray has always annoyed the hell out of me, and it's one of the reasons why it's hard to go back and watch the original King Kong for me personally. The original King Kong, masterpiece when it comes to the effects and everything for its day, but like my god, Fey Ray just screams her way throughout that whole damn movie. And this is like couldn't be further from the case. When we get screams, it's warranted, Dragon. The screams are in the face of literal death.
Yes. And that's the thing. I like. She's far more likable than Fay Ray for the most part too. It's like basically she's in the Fay Ray model of our King Kong kind of a quasi adaptation here in the
uh,
sense of our kind of our not lampooning, but kind of our rip off our quasi rip off of King Kong, which was self admitted from the get go as by the producer. By the way, he says towards the end, it's like I kind of ripped it off from King Kong, but But that's the thing. I love that she is kind of in many respects she's the creature's love interest. And again, she's terrified by him, but she's still trying to show the creature some respect. Like she's not falling for him, but like Fay Ray. But she's it's like maybe let's not antagonize him. Let's just leave him alone. How's that for an
she's
idea?
kind of like because the two men definitely have different ideologies of how to of how to handle the creature. One wants to research him, the other wants to profit off of him, and And Kay is just kind of like you said, Kay is the one who's like, let's just no, like this creature, like obviously, like let's respect him enough to just not do that, not take him out of his environment.
Yeah, she's acknowledging the role in the events that that our little kind of expedition crew are culpable for. You know, like we kind of triggered these events. I think the right thing to do right now is like let's just not antagonize further, and maybe let's get out of Dodge.
Sure.
I also I think she has nice chemistry with honestly everybody. If you really look at her, I think she's just quite pleasant. You know,
Yeah, everyone. I kind of agree. Like she just kind of is an overall all around pleasant character, and I do think the love triangle genuinely kind of works.
Yeah, she literally. It's so funny we bring up the whole Jurassic Park comparison. It's a little bit like because again we know she doesn't. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this. It is a little bit like Grant, Malcolm, and Sattler.
Yeah, because we know Shadow's never going to end up with Malcolm, but it's fine because
I
it's
don't
like
know
oh
what is. Okay, Dragon. Just wild fan theory here. She was divorced from Grant in Jurassic Park 3. What if she was with Goldblum in fucking Lost in the whatever the hell they're calling the new Jurassic
I
World
think
Exodus of Extinction or
I think it's
whatever.
like Dominion or something.
That's stupid, but whatever.
Well, the point, well, you know, I keep forgetting they got divorced in that third one. Right? They weren't just separated.
They
Or
did get divorced, yes.
okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, I would not want that. It'd be oh god, it'd be crazy.
Oh, come on. You can't tell me that that would at least be a little bit of fun for the fandom.
I mean, it'd be funny, but you know,
Thank God, after all these years, she actually ended up with that prick.
look where we're at now with fandom, though, Tiki. That's what I'm saying. Do we really want to kick the hornet's nest?
I'd be down for it as a Jurassic Park fan.
I mean, I think it'd be funny. I don't know if you get too old fast or not. But yeah, anyways, my point is again very Ian Malcolm-esque with you know with the other like I think she and David have really nice chemistry. You know, they kind of like you know they like each other without over. You know, like they have these cute. He brings her like a piece of kelp, like hey, it's some flowers for you. Like oh, that's kind of cute. You know, versus Mark here was just like really just like, hey, stop playing now. Yeah, that guy.
All right.
All right.
Speaking of which, do you want to just kind of combine David and Mark? Because I feel like they're kind of two sides of the same coin, like opposing ideologies.
Sure, but before we do it, one last thing I want to get in with Kay.
Okay.
Is that I like that Kay is also she's kind of representing us, the audience. She's representative of us, the audience, because she's very much again, she's going into the adventure. She's kind of the voice of reason. The world is in the world of the film here, and she's kind of pointing out like, hey, guys, let's not antagonize. Let's get out of here.
Sure.
But also again being quite terrified, you know, with the scream. But again, not a scream queenie sort of thing. Just like, oh my god, I'm terrified. She's very much as like I think the audience can like she's not the main doctor, but she's the assistant to the doctor. She's just relatable enough, you know, for the audience. I felt. All right. Okay, let's talk doctors, man.
All right, so David versus Mark.
Yeah, it's not David versus Goliath, but you know, or Davy versus is it Davy versus Goliath or David versus Goliath?
Davy and Goliath is the kid and the dog
I
dragon.
know. I don't know why. It is David and
yes, it is David and Goliath. Yes.
I know, right?
Well, I don't know, Davy.
Wouldn't it be delightful if it was the other way, though?
Oh God.
It's always got to be all dour and epic. Why can't it just be, hey, Davy and Goliath? Okay, so point being, we got David Reed and we got Mark Williams here. These two guys, they have a really interesting kind of a parallel to each other.
They do. This is like, Dragon, this is honest to God the kind of stuff that, like, I joked at the beginning of Creature from the Black Lagoon being the worst stage show Universal's ever done, which is a true fact. But, Dragon, honestly, I could see this working as a stage show from the perspective of, like, you know, like, okay, we've captured this creature. What do we do with him? The whole show's about, like, the moral quandary of that. I could see that getting really intense on stage. And, of course, kind of falls into some Shape of Water territory, naturally.
Speaking of Shape of Water and all these stage show talk, I got to mention, I mean, let's be Shape of Water. We have an actual, like, you know, song and dance number. Let's, you know, let me see that version of Creature in the Black Lagoon, a black and white stage. Let's see that.
Oh my God, like an old school, like, vaudevillian Broadway thing.
Yes, like, let's do that.
Jesus.
That's how you make that work. You can make it like that scene in Shape of Water for your.
Like Creature from the Black Lagoon meets the artist.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. All right. Okay, so but yes, so the ethical debate though. So we have I love that we have these two kind of cookie cutter models initially for your 50s kind of leading man. They're both
You do,
doctors.
yeah.
They're both like, you have your traditional dashing lead and kind of your Chief Brody figure and David Reed. He's kind of a little Chief Brody. Yes, he's the guy. He's the rational of the group. He's calling out the danger situation. He basically has an arc of developing some moral responsibility for like, let's not kill the creature. Let's just take our samples and go. Like we don't want to let's. He doesn't want to bring it in alive. He doesn't want to bring it in period. He just wants to get the fossils and find those, and maybe let's collect other evidence from the thing. Let's go. Let's not take the risk and do all this because this thing's mauled people in our camp. But he definitely is interested in it. He wants to research it until he regrets it later on after all the deaths.
Uh-huh.
On the flip side of things, Marky Boy here, Mark, he's like Charles Muntz. His obsession.
He's the Carl Denham of the group.
Yes. But I love that he kind of develops this almost kind of Muntzian obsession with again very much how Muntz is going after Kevin the Bird in Up. He's very much like I gotta bring this thing home with me no matter what it takes. Either dead or alive at this point.
I do think he makes a genuinely compelling argument when he's like, "Look, we are on the precipice of scientific breakthroughs here, the likes of which people have never seen, and that's why it's so important to bring our discoveries back with us, because if we don't, then it's simply never going to be recorded because people are never going to believe us, and it's just going to be like a lost science, if you will."
And we do set this up too, where David, he tried to get a picture of the thing, and again didn't develop. So again, we can't. So it adds credence to Mark's argument here. Well, again, we couldn't quite get the photo, but instead of going for the photo, let's go the full tilt with it, man. Let's just go the full. Let's get this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it kind of drives him to the point of madness. He's essentially where again he's gonna nab this thing. No matter what it takes, where he's going in there. I think his demise was very fitting, where he chose the big game hunt of his kind of the whale to his Ahab, so to speak. He went full tilt for greed, for the glory he went for glory over his own survival. That was his fate. Which again, he wasn't going home without the thing. Therefore, he wasn't going home. Leaving was never an option for him in our movie, which is all about the definition of kind of like home and kind of the natural environment, where these guys are foreigners to this land, where this is not their home; it's the creature's home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and also remember how prickish Mark was always lauding his achievements over David too. These guys really they didn't like each other. He's making passes at the girl. He's just a really unpleasant guy. But again, he's kind of like the movie seeing it somewhat of I love that he's de facto our villain of the piece, where the creature essentially is our monster, but this guy's the villain.
Yeah, interesting.
So again, they're really good in contrast. All
right. So let's just kind of rapid fire through these next three, because there's not really a lot to them. Dr. Carl Maya, just kind of a little bit of a Hammond type. He's kind of like the head in the clouds. He's interested in the science of it all and he'll fund it, and he just kind of wants to wants to see the the wonder of it. He's all about the wonder of it.
Certainly, yeah. Maya here, he's the impetus for the story. He's the Mr. Skeleton Hand guy. That's kind of his main role. He finds the fossil.
Right.
He's the guy who finds the fossil, and he's Mr. Exposition on the character introductions, where he literally, it's like there's 50s exposition, then there's really exposition. He's giving the whole back. He's reading the back of the card on these guys. Oh, I can't believe you're an ichthyologist. You look like I keep seeing the young student I once mentored. I'm the mentor figure too. It's like, can you lay it on any thicker, doctor? He mentored
The West Wing, as much as I'm liking it, it's definitely got some of that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. This is it in spades, though. You got this is
Uh,
like, but seriously, the guy did bring a little a Hammond as again a proto Hammondy warmth and like he was a friendly guy. He felt I love that he conveyed didn't quite focus on, but I like that we conveyed he felt guilt for getting these men killed. I kind of felt that,
yeah, definitely, definitely.
which was nice. Okay, then we have I think kind of the standout supporting characters. Captain Lucas.
I do think he's a standout as well. Just like Englehart was the standout supporting character of King Kong, I think it's very
Yeah.
appropriate. The captain is the standout of this. Yeah, man. There's something about this guy's delivery and his screen presence where he just really fits the weird mood. I love when he's fucking with the crocodiles and just kind of laughing to himself at the beginning.
I mean, honestly, I think the very simple thing with Captain Lucas, he's just always so happy.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I know it's an oversimplification, but I mean, it's just kind of he's just like think about it. I think the best bit with Captain Lucas in the movie is the when he threatens Mark with the knife. When Mark's saying, "We're not going home," but he's fun with an edge, but with a smile on his face, he kind of that knife appears under the guy's neck. He says, "Hey, on the Watcher, the captain makes the decisions." Like that's what I was saying. Like he's making sure to point. And this is a tough guy. His crew's been getting killed left and right, and isn't too happy about it. It's like, no, we're gonna go, man. I get the final say in this. But again, with a smile on his face, brought a lot of warmth. Solid supporting character, and quite prominent. Also, I think he captures the urban legend of it all. It captures the whole Amazon voyage of it all. It kind of captures the impetus of our story and just kind of the pitching of it in a sense.
Mm.
Yeah. All right. So let's pro con this thing.
Okay, I mean, I think there's a ton of pros. Obviously,
Sure.
like the atmosphere, the prototypical nature of a lot of the stuff. This was a stepping stone towards Jurassic Park, a stepping stone towards Jaws. I love how it paves the way forward for modern day blockbuster filmmaking, while still very much paying tribute to the past blockbusters of the Universal monster era that defined it. Just obviously incredible standout performance from the two men who played the creature. The creature design itself is one of the most iconic in Hollywood history, no doubt about it. I mean, I could keep going. Just the moral quandaries of it all, the fact that this would make for a great play, just because of how the two men's sort of different ideologies clash with each other. It's very tense in some spots. Some of the supporting characters, like Lucas, do really sing. Yeah,
Yeah, of course, the ethical and environmental commentary. The environmental commentary in this film, it's great without being on the nose. Did you find that as well? Like, think about it. Like I think the money shot for the environmental thing is
Dragon,
trying.
if they remade this and tried to work in the environmental commentary, it'd be like way, way over the top.
Yeah,
And also,
sad but true.
Gilman would be entirely in CGI.
Oh God. But again, unless Del Toro's doing it, buddy boy. Unless
I mean,
Del.
to be fair, I could think of a couple other directors who wouldn't do him in CGI, but yeah.
That's the thing. I love that we have I think the shot that really crystallized the message for me was we poisoned all the fish. I don't know if they're going to be okay. We probably killed them. We remember all the fish. We used the rotenum. We used this chemical fish poison called rotenum, which they use to tranquilize the creature. And one, it has a great effect when we kind of drop this stuff underwater and we weigh it down. It has like this great like kind of like dust effect underwater. It looks really cool.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I'm saying. We use this, and later on we're kind of waiting for them to kind of surface or buoyancy and such. We just have all these dead fish, dead looking fish in the water. Which is look at what these outsiders have done to this environment. And like we have like the smoking PSA where she ditches the cigarette, which one is like a connection between her and the creature, but also like, hey man, it's polluting. What are you doing? And like the creatures roar and stuff like good stuff like that. A lot of really good stuff. Of course, I think the MVP moment in the entire film is Kay swimming with kind of just the underwater sequences. They look fantastic, but Kay swimming and the creatures kind of like falling in love with her as he's kind of stalking her, unbeknownst to her. It just looks fantastic. Um, I'd say the oil lantern fire effect is my favorite thing in the movie. It just looks awesome. I forgot how brutal it was. Like we throw again, it's an oil lantern, so he's covered in oil, so he's just catching fire. It's not just like he's gonna hit him with a lantern. It's like, oh my god, this poor Gill man, what are you doing to him? So he jumps in the water just instinctually. How can he not? The gasping effect's my favorite thing when he's on stage. Oh my god, which of course I've seen all over Shape of Water. I've seen the original impetus for that. It's great. And I got one last big pro, and I'll list the very few fleeting cons. The monster's death, I think, I love how that was handled.
Sure, sure.
Where in the monster's quote unquote death, because obviously it comes back for two more movies, but it's I just love I love that David's like avoiding the overkill. Like, no, he's had enough. I love that notion of like, no, just like let him go. Like we've shot him a couple times. He's probably dead, but which of course leads to said sequels. But it's like this destiny of like, either he becomes a fossil or he resides home until man interferes again. That's such a great fate for this character. Again, either becomes the fossil from the very beginning, or he's again to be dealt with in another film. And that's the last shot of the film, is him floating down to the water into the abyss. We're never going to see him again. It's perfect.
Mhm.
Okay, cons. Well, we kind of talked through already, I guess. Yeah.
Like I said, I think by the end of the movie, it pretty much kind of becomes a typical Hollywood chase movie, if that makes sense. And in that regard, I am a little bit numb to the creature design by that point. I feel like they maybe showed too much of the creature by the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, it's like a part of you wonders, like, why couldn't the first time we really saw him be like when he shows up on the ship and then kidnaps her? Like, wouldn't that have been kind
Right.
of really...
But you know what? It's a small nitpick, though, Dragon.
Sure. I mean, again, all I have right now are small. I want to be clear. All I have are small nitpicks
Of
with my cons
of
here.
course,
So,
yeah.
with one exception, maybe. So the one exception being, I think the pacing's a bit. It's a slow burn. I can't say that it's bad, but it's a slow
I
burn in
enjoy the slow burn, but that's just because I'm really into the pacing of old movies in general. I find something very relaxing about it.
I mainly say that because the movie's like a little under an hour and 20 minutes, and for the pacing to feel like that and that short runtime, that's the thing that jumps at me. Again, it's not a deal breaker by any stretch. I'm just saying, like, I want to get to like the swimming part. Maybe that's just me, the audience member. I can't hold too much of a grudge
I mean,
there.
see,
Big
like I said, I feel like I don't have that reaction just because I enjoy the slow build up.
I mean, look, that's fair. I mean, again, I'm just saying, again, like slow but not deadly.
Sure, sure.
Uh, okay, big thing I think we can both agree on. I think the biggest con this movie has, we didn't credit the super performers. That's awful that we didn't.
Well, yeah, of
Yeah,
course. That I mean, that's a con on the filmmaker's
I know.
part,
That's what
but
I'm just saying. That's one con we can agree on. So,
mhm.
again, really exposition heavy. But that's per the '50s. That can't be helped. It's the '50s. And lastly, I think the cage scene, as great as it is, I love the cage. I love seeing him in that cage. Adam, in a few shots before he breaks out of the cage, I mean, I know it would have been really hard and it was probably been impossible at the time, but an eye blink, or something, because he just looks kind of like sitting there for a while, and for some shots, he's just kind of sitting there. But I mean, that's all I got. It's a good movie.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so yeah, final thoughts. I mean, they're basically going to be kind of like, a wrap up of my pros, but God, this movie just defined a lot, man. Like we really wouldn't have a lot without this. Like I said, final thoughts. I think I summed it up really well, Dragon, when I said that I feel like this movie is kind of like the perfect stepping stone of, making strides towards the modern day blockbuster while still homaging the dark and gothic roots of Universal's past with the monster movies. And in that regard, I don't necessarily think it's the best monster movie. I think that would probably go to either Frankenstein or Dracula. Just I don't know. I just think both those movies are almost objectively perfect. But I still think that it's just a damn fascinating one.
Final thoughts for me. Again, it's nice to see that Universal still had it in the end with the monster grades, because this essentially was he was like the last great monster of the time for Universal in the '50s when they're kind of going out of that. So, I mean, for me, I mean, the personal thing I mean with the Creature from Black Lagoon too is that this is the perennial monster. I think for a lot of people, this is my father's universal monster. He loves the Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's kind of a it's kind of an additional thing that we kind of share. It's kind of he saw this thing in theaters back in the day. He loves
Uh,
this. I was saying this was again in 3D. So he's got like a lot of nostalgia for it, and again, just like there's this because again the movie's just cool fundamentally. It's just got like they have a kind of a what's better than a monster, a sea monster. Like oh my god, and it can also be terrifying on land and sea. It's quite simple, but it works. Again, this movie it's a step up. It's a step above the B movie. Again, it's the B movie given the proper appreciation via the universal name. That's what this thing is. It's the eye catcher of the monster a lot.
in a
Uh,
way, it's kind of like Tarantino before Tarantino.
Pretty much. Hey, you mean of all the comparisons we're making, let's just pile on. I dig it. Sure.
I'm just saying, like it's taken the structure of like a weird B movie, but adding a lot of Hollywood clout to it.
Yeah. So again, the movie. I think it's a classic for sure.
God, I never thought I'd connect this to Tarantino, but there you go.
There you go. So again, movie classic for sure. It feeds the fire to it really feeds the fire to check out the rest of the trilogy, Tiki. Because again, knowing how much I love Shape of Water makes me want to really kind of rewatch, the other two. Because I've never seen the third one, and the second one again. Honestly, I don't think I've seen the second one either. I should probably probably watch them. Because again, this movie scratched the horror itch quite well. And take in closing, you're much like the Gillman's premise and demise in his life. Society could have let him die,
uh
or the society could have let him die, or leave him. But we just can't help ourselves, and which means we invite many returns, which is why the Creature from the Black Lagoon keeps coming back, keeps rising to the surface, and keeps us scared.
Well said. Well said. All right. Well, Dragon, I think it's been a great season so far. We've only got one left, and just to tease that one up, I don't think we want to say it three times, Dragon. That'd be bad.
That would be.
All right. So let's see.
It gives people two guesses, I'm sure, but we'll see.
I know, right? And I think one of them is much more in our oh god, in our wheelhouse than the other one.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, folks, that's the end of tonight's spooky selection, and our spirits grow weary. But they'll be stronger than ever next time as we engage in even more haunted holiday hijinks. Listen, it's real. It's real. Wait for it. All right, you know what? I'm not going to go through the whole, bad idea. I was going to play a bit from The Creature from the Black Lagoon musical,
really
but I
is a
don't
bad
know what's
idea.
funny. I don't know what bits are funny, so... Dragon, give us a funny quote! Ooh, that was such a failure that it was scary!